Let me now introduce the really important concept that some of you asked about, and that's the concept of mutual exclusion. Now, formally, mutual exclusion is pretty easy to define. Mutual exclusion is the probability of, so basically mutual exclusion is that P and Q are mutually exclusive just in case probability of P and Q equals 0. In other words, it is impossible for P and Q to be true simultaneously. That's what it means for P and Q to be mutually exclusive. So now consider, let me take this off the board, take this definition off the board, and now what I want you to consider is the probability of reaching into the jar and drawing a red chip or a green chip. The probability of reaching to the jar, pulling out one of those chips, not knowing what chip you're pulling out, and that probability, the chip being either red or green. Now, notice that it is impossible to reach into this jar, pull out a chip that is both red and green. The red chips and the green chips are separate chips from each other. No chip is both red and green. So this probability of the probability of a red chip or a green chip, drawing a red chip on a single draw and drawing a green chip on a single draw are indeed mutually exclusive. The probability of them both being true on a single draw is 0. So in this case, we can use the simple probability rule for calculating P or Q, so red or green, and that rule is just simply the probability of a red chip plus the probability of a green chip. In this case, the probability of a red chip we know is 2 out of 10. The probability of a green chip is 5 out of 10. So this particular probability is going to equal 7 out of 10, or 0.7. And so we've calculated the probability of reaching into that jar, and by simple inspection, you can look and see that that number is exactly correct. Because 7 of those chips in the jar are red or green, only 3 are not red or green, and so we get exactly the correct number by applying this particular simple rule. And we can apply this simple rule because drawing a red chip and drawing a green chip are mutually exclusive.